And we're live. Welcome back. Seller Sessions Daily, 4 p.m. each and every day, 7 days a week, whilst we're all on lockdown. Welcome, gentlemen, to the show. How you doing?
Great.
Doing great.
Excellent. All right, so starting clockwork from the top, the man in green in background, Barker's Patty. Give a little bit of background on who you are and what you do, please.
Barkus Patty. I work with Helium 10 as a product manager. I've been in the Amazon space and then the software space for about 5 years. Sell a little bit on my own, and I work remote. I've been in South Alabama for the past 5 years doing remote work as well. So wife, 3 kids, family man, making it all work.
Excellent.
Somehow.
And Gilad, go over to you, mate. Going to give a background on yourself.
Yeah, sure. Amazon seller since 2015. 2017 started the VA Academy Philippines. What we do is we specialize in filtering and training Amazon virtual assistants in order for them to work with Amazon sellers. Married with 2 kids, 2 babies at home. My wife is handling them together now when I'm here.
Okay. Omar, over to you.
Sure. Former Amazon seller, started in 2015. Now founder of YourTasker, which provides e-commerce account management and it's a marketing agency. Before e-commerce, I was in IT, worked for big IT consulting workforce for about 8 to 10 years. I have 3 kids, wife. I am in Long Island, New York.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And Nate, over to you.
Yeah, so my name's Nathan Hirsch. I was a longtime Amazon seller. I sold for about 7 years. I started a marketplace called FreeUp based on my experience scaling my Amazon business with virtual assistants. I scaled FreeUp for the past 4 years. We ended up getting acquired at the end of 2019, and now
congratulations.
Appreciate it. And now that I'm done with that transition, I'm working on my new venture, OutsourceSchool.com, which teaches people how to use virtual assistants, how to interview them, onboard them, train them, manage them, but also how to do specific things like how to use them to get on podcasts, how to use them for merch, how to use them for lead generation, whatever it is. And we're creating some cool software as well. So that's me.
Sounds good. Right, let's go into it. So basically what today's show is about is to help Amazon seller community to make the most of this situation with distributed teams, in-house staff, VAs. Some people may have to lay their staff off or adjust their timings and stuff in terms of putting them onto different projects, shortening their hours. So today's like, how do we optimize in a crisis and what do we do? I mean, to give you an example, I've managed to retain almost everyone. I had to let go a team member on one side, but I paid them 5 weeks' wages and took care of them and give them a soft landing there. Some of my guys were fine. A couple of I've just moved around on different projects and stuff. But it'd be good, Nate, to give me your experience. I know that you've exited the FreeUp business, but obviously you still have very close connections there. What kind of impact happened almost straight away for you guys, and you see the reflection going across the market?
Yeah, and I've been talking to Mark Hargrove, who bought FreeUp. He's a great entrepreneur, and he had a good line. He said, hey, it's easy when everything's going well, it's easy to have success. It's when things aren't going well and when stuff happens that you kind of see what real entrepreneurs are made of. And I mean, they're not panicking over there. I think they're having natural clients that can't afford virtual assistants that are pausing work. They're probably getting less requests, but they're using this time to restructure and to reorganize. They're not letting anyone go from the internal team. They're using it to improve their systems, improve their processes, train with virtual assistants. And I think the people that are out there that have been using VAs that have a team, to me, the biggest thing is communication. If you're someone that can do what Danny did and can reorganize and restructure and move people to tasks or train them in different things, great. If you're someone that can't, be open and honest with them, because a virtual assistant might have 3 different clients that are all affected differently from this craziness, and they need to know how bad it is for you and what they're looking for. And the last thing, and I'll pass it off, is I personally would try to give them options. Do you want to reduce your pay? Do you want to cut back your hours? Like, try to come up with some different creative options and see what's best for their particular situation.
Yeah. That makes sense. Same for you, Omar. What's your take on the situation? What was the impact on yours? You're a slightly different setup in terms of what Nate does. They offer VAs there with you. You're a distributed teams. Do you want to explain what that means and then articulate your answer?
Sure. So first of all, I don't call anybody who works on e-commerce, I don't call them VA. I call them e-commerce assistant, specialist, or expert, based on their skill set.
Their skills,
The way your tasker is different, that we have our own offices, Nobody used to work from home, but now everybody is working from home. So obviously there was a big difference. I think there are two ways to look at that, First is the client perspective, We work very closely with 95% of our business is working with Amazon sellers. And I can see that, the very first day when we start working is that we made a list. What are the clients who are impacted and which ones are not impacted based on the category, based on what they sell. And we made strategy based on that, and that comes with a lot of education as well on both sides. So when we start having these talks, basically talking with sellers, and that it's not even though that is a tough time right now, crisis time, but you should not be making business decisions right now based on the current circumstances. You need to keep future in mind as well. When I talk to a lot of our clients as well, look at that e-commerce. There is no doubt now that e-commerce is going to stay here. It's the future. So how you are, scoping that future which is coming for your business? That's the first thing. Second thing, an important part is basically how you are taking care of your team. Because they are the one who are suffering as well. You see in India, Philippines, in Pakistan, it's a crisis right now. A lot of IT companies, they have closed their offices and they have to work. So you have to be very sympathetic. When you're talking to, you have a sympathy that they are working from home and they are going through some stuff. So you need to work on both sides and look to understand the perspective. So I tell whoever is working on with our clients that learn about their neighborhood, what is going on, what they are going through, and talk about that. And I think one of the and I must appreciate, Danny, the work you are doing, and we are basically taking notes on every session you are doing, and we are kind of talking to our clients based on those points, and that help us all. So that
all I do is I curate. I bring in good people and hopefully ask the right questions. It's my guests that bring the magic to the table. But sorry, go on, Karen.
Yeah. So that is another. So we need to look on the both sides, and the way the conversation should start. Whoever worked with the Amazon seller directly is how is their days going so far? What is going on in their neighborhood? Because the biggest thing I think that you have covered in one of the session is the fear. Fear is the biggest factor right now. And I now after 2-3 weeks, people are getting used to it. And when it comes to work, I tell all of the people out there, I cannot believe if people are selling on Amazon and they don't have work. Just go back to their emails. There are a lot of things which they thought of and they could never work on. For example, I'm sitting at home and right now I know that I went back to my emails and I see there are a lot of things which I wanted to do. I couldn't do it because I didn't have time. Now it's a time we can work on that. So it's basically how you strategize your workforce and your communication with your clients.
Cool. Bringing in Jalad here. What's your take on things as well?
Well, I think lately in the last couple of days, we had many sellers coming to us. You have to understand that we're actually supporting two things. We have the community of VAs that are part of VAA, about 70 VAs, and they're counting on us, to connect them with sellers, and they're afraid. They don't know if their sellers going to leave them or not, and what's going to be the next day. And on the other hand, we have the sellers coming in, talking to us, and the big sellers, they tend to more understand that the importance of keeping their VAs. It's more of the new sellers that just started, and with them, they think, okay, now things are going down. Maybe this is one of the expenses I should cut. And the idea here is really to talk with the seller and to to really understand from him if this is the right move for you, because it's actually a good opportunity now to show your virtual assistant, your VA, what you're made of, what your company is made of, that you're believing in them. And, if you're just cutting them, saying goodbye, maybe we'll come back in a few weeks or a month or two from now, and then we'll start over again and everything is going to be great. But you never know if this VA is going to be available to you or not. And you're losing the trust between you guys. And the cost that will cost you to keep that VA for this period could be, much worth it, because if you're showing your VA that even when it's getting rough, then you're there with them, and then they're gonna understand that you're here for the long run, and they're gonna give you 10 times more than they did before. So this is really like a huge opportunity for you actually to show your VA that and to get much more from your VA. After that, there are a lot of things that you can gain on the business side from keeping a VA in this period, like Omar said about emails and stuff, but probably we'll talk about it later.
Yeah, communication is key. Barkas, I'll bring you in here. I know that you don't run like a VA business, but you work 2 large companies. You work with 6 Leaf, where you had teams there. I'm assuming the same with Helium 10. What are you seeing it on as a seller stroke business side? What's been your take over the last couple of weeks? Your mic's off. 1 second. Let me switch it back on. There you go.
There we go. Yeah. I think 2 things, and whether you are running a business like Helium 10 or you're running a product business on Amazon, I think there's 2 things: is setting the expectations from both parties, but then also empowering your VAs. I see a lot of people in our community that want to hire somebody for whatever, whether it's $5, $10, $15 an hour, but then they get frustrated because they're not doing certain things. Like and when I say setting expectations, like write a standard operating procedure. And all these guys here can speak volumes more to this too, but like write out what you expect them to do and communicate that when you're interviewing these people, but then also empowering them. Like when you get somebody scaled up and trained to run your business, like start giving them more, empowering them. I can only speak to I've worked with people exclusively in the Philippines, and what I've taken from that work culture is they take a lot of pride in their work. Like most of them want to do a really great job, and they want to perform to exceed your expectations. So if you understand the work culture in whatever country you're hiring, but then really laying things out, interview them as you would interview somebody that you're going to hire for a 6-figure position. Take that kind of. And it's your responsibility to put all that stuff in front of them. And if you don't, you're going to be disappointed with them. Yeah,
that makes sense. I want to change the subject slightly here, which I want to bring up to you guys and everyone listening here. I've seen a bit of a trend where people are using this time, reaching out, looking for VAs for $1 an hour. I just want to say you are shitbags. If you're going to pay people that kind of money, it brings out the worst of people and the best of people in a crisis. What's your take on this? I think, just because you've got distributed teams or VAs in different countries with lower pay scale in terms of relation to the national wage, I think that there has to be a line drawn under this, and that says everything about the person. If you're trying to court now for $1 an hour because people are desperate. Nate, I'll let you take this one.
Yeah, the thing is that that's a very short-term play that's probably not going to work out for you long-term anyway, regardless of whether it's personally wrong, which I agree it is. Now is actually an opportunity to get some A players that you might not have had the opportunity to get because they worked for other clients that might not be doing well. So, I just hired a VA. I hired them from Free Up the other day, which was kind of weird, but it was kind of my opportunity to get an A player that, who knows, like 2 months ago, they might have been booked with another client. So that's kind of how I look at it. And if you think it's bad for in the UK or in the US, imagine what it's like in the Philippines right now.
Yeah, exactly.
Getting stuff like I can get delivery or curbside pickup, like not a lot of that exists in the Philippines. They're just as scared as we are. There's that whole unknown factor that everyone's going through, and you have to kind of see it from their side.
Yeah, totally. Who should I bring in? Gilad, what's your take on it? You're in the Philippines. You know what I'm talking about, where you've probably seen these people in the groups looking for $1 for an hour for a VA. What's your take?
Well, first of all, the situation in the Philippines is when we're talking with our VAs, the situation is tough here. We have all these online Imagine that a lot of VAs, they don't even have credit cards, so all these options that exist for us of buying things online, ordering food and so on, doesn't exist for them. For them, they're really scared of the fact that maybe they will not even be able to go outside from their home even to buy groceries. So it's very important for them to keep that work. However, that's not the right time to take advantage of it, because basically you're just losing in all directions, because you're showing your VA that he's not that important for you. And in the same time, this VA, if he will find, or she will find another job with 2 cents more, then they will take it, because they will think, okay, he wanted to go as low as possible. I'm not committed to the person anymore. So you're losing on all fronts. It will not last.
Yeah, I mean, what I've just done with one of my guys who works part-time, I found out like he's on $10 an hour, right? And some people say that's overpaying for the Philippines. I think he's fair, and I cover some healthcare and stuff like that as well. He was working with an Australian company for 160 hours a month, earning $300, and they've just cut his hours and his wages. So I said, all right, I'll just settle out the difference. Come work for me for an extra 5 hours, write a load of SOPs. Like it's not that I needed that work to be done, but I'm trying to give him work. Does that make sense? Because I'm like, don't kill yourself over there doing this for a lower amount of money. And like what I was disappointed with what this company done is, even in the crunch, they're only paying him $300 a month and cut his wages in half. Surely they could have cut somewhere else. Does that make sense? So I decided, right, well, just come work for me. It's only going to cost me an extra couple of $100 a month. Write some SOPs, just giving him something so it ties him over to think about that over the next few weeks. At the end of the day, these people have still got to eat. They've still got to be treated with respect. Omar, let's bring you in here. What have you seen? Have you been seeing any of this kind of cutthroat, low pricing, trying to get VAs in the desperate times?
I have seen trend that a lot of people reaching out who were thinking before, and I mean, our process is a little different, so that does not work for us.
Yeah,
that,
of course.
They're trying to get a lower rate or something like that. But I have a couple of points,
Yeah.
Whenever if a resource or VA, whoever is working, I will speak on their behalf. Okay.
Yeah.
So whenever they are taking any client, okay, they are talking to anyone, okay, they need to also assess whether that is a entrepreneur or business owner or someone who is just doing business for hobby. Okay. Yeah. People who like to build processes, okay, they are the real entrepreneur. Okay. Yeah. And they know that they are getting value for that. Yeah. And, so you need to assess that, you need to look at that. And I always say that if, in this crisis time, okay, I would say that, even if you are getting like, I cannot imagine that e-commerce business owners are going through tremendous losses or something like that. I know that everybody is making money or they are on the track. There are some people who are not doing well, but, they need to stick with their team. This is the time to show, your respect. You need to show that, these are the people, they are also suffering. You're not the only one. So if you show respect, I know that right now, some of my guys are, they work Monday to Friday. They were working on weekends just to show their client that how much they care. Okay. Yeah. So this is the same attitude you need to do when you are either assessing clients right from the beginning, when they start working with you. It's a famous thing which Danny, you said at PPC Congress. If you see something like that, you need to fire them. I think you need to you need to see that from a VA or from a resource perspective, that you don't need to work with those people who have this as a hobby. You need to work with the real entrepreneur, and this is the time they show their quality, their characteristics that they can work with you in this crisis time.
Yeah. Do you know what this is also a good time for, is to explore new ideas. Everyone's at home, right? And I know with Nate, I've done it with you before, where I've had to do certain little projects. And the great thing about with FreeUp, if I've got some ideas I want to test, they may not be an idea that will full bloom, but everyone still gets paid in the process, right? So I might say to you, I need someone to do X, Y, and Z. Can you find someone for like 10, 15 hours? And it's like a test project. That's still giving VA some work. And it also gives you an idea to see if you can validate an idea. Does that make sense? Especially when you've got to put 2 or 3 people into the mix. So I'd always say to people, if you've got ideas that's sitting on the back burner there that you want to test out, you can speak to like one of you guys. You know, I'm not here to individually promote. They can reach you guys when they'll know how to reach you after. But this is a great time to test ideas and say, look, I'll give you some project work, and that could make a massive difference to the bottom line for someone in the Philippines or one of the distributed teams over in India or Asia or wherever they may be.
Yeah, I mean, I completely agree. I'm kind of in a weird spot because I'm starting a new business, Outsource School. So now it's kind of my time to put my head down, and I've been hiring VAs, I've been hiring video editors, I've been hiring graphic designers to get in web developers to just build stuff. And like you said, there's a certain trial and error element that happens with every business. It's one of the things that I know you and I really enjoy. I like throwing stuff against the wall and seeing what's working. And there's no better time to do it now, because if something's working now, it's going to blow up once all this is over. So that's kind of how I'm approaching it, is saying, hey, I think Omar said this, but what kind of projects can I get off my plate now? What have I been putting off? What kind of ideas can I try? And I mean, everyone's in a different spot too. If you're a newer seller, if you don't have a high budget, if your personal bills are not allowing you to keep someone on as a virtual assistant, that's a little bit different than if you're a bigger seller or you've been selling for years and hopefully you have an emergency fund, and you should keep your people on and make sure they're protected during this time. So depending on where you're at, make a logical decision and just keep the virtual assistants in mind.
Yeah. Gilad, give me some ideas. Sellers that are sitting on the call now maybe have got to that stage, you know, where it's the running joke is like, oh, we're going to do some external traffic. We're going to learn chatbots. And it's one of those things on your list that everyone does or is meant to do, but never gets around to doing it. Give some ideas of what people could be doing now. It could be some SEO work and things like that. So whilst Amazon, if you're selling like non-essential goods, for instance, this may be the time to start building out pockets of little teams with expertise. So give me some ideas of what people can do.
Well, I would say that, you know, instead of just looking only at the things that you postpone all the time, think of what's the need at this moment. The need for this moment is to continue and, you know, to not lose your audience. You know, you have so many people. Imagine all these people all the sellers that are selling things that are not essential for the moment. So their sales are obviously going down, but their community, the people that buys from them, they're still there. They're going to continue to buy, and that's your opportunity, you know, to build a community, to start either by social media, to start creating newsletters and contacting either by phones, you know, calling your customers if you already have their phone numbers, if you already are advanced and you got their information, or even emailing them, telling them, hey, we're still here. I know that this is a tough time for you, but let's say that you're selling, I don't know, camping tents. Okay, so nobody's buying camping tents at the moment because everybody are locked down, but everybody are fantasizing about it. Everybody are waiting for the time that they will go out and start hiking again. So this will be the time for you to start looking for this audience and contacting them, either by creating a Facebook group, Facebook page, newsletter, or just contacting these people and starting to gain their trust. And imagine that nobody else is doing that at the moment, because everybody they are focused on their sales going down, and the ones that will have virtual assistant, they could use them to prepare themselves for the next step once everybody are all waiting to go out.
Yep, makes sense. Barkus, do you want to step in? You got some words here?
I think going back to your second question, actually, like when you start to lowball people, don't expect them to stick around. Mm-hmm. First off, you said it best, but so we don't need to
shit bags. Yeah, I'll say it again.
Yeah. But you can't expect a lot out of somebody. Don't expect it. Expect them to bounce as soon as they can find somebody that will pay them a reasonable wage too. So don't expect maybe they will still be respectful and give you a 2 weeks notice. Maybe they won't, but it's just it's disrespectful, but going back to, to I guess the last question you were asking is, I think that especially in these times, you might not know what you're going to do or what's really happening. I think daily stand-ups are really good, where you maybe get on a Zoom call or, any type of virtual call, Skype, whatever you use, and talk to your team. Maybe it's one person, maybe it's 10. just have a casual conversation like, hey, what's going on? What do you guys need help with? Anything like that. It just like it's this mental, it just kind of helps that day progress. If they see you every day, or maybe you do it every other day or whatever, maybe you wake up a little early, and if that requires you to get out of bed an hour earlier each day, it just shows a little bit of respect to your team. I think those small things that you can do go a long way. And again, and going back to empowering, like ask them questions like, hey, what do you think? If you have ideas, like encourage them to give you ideas as well. We've got one guy on the team is always spitting us ideas about whether that's customer service or new tools and everything like that. So, I just think it's, the small things really, really help, especially in times of uncertainty. Yeah,
definitely. Let's talk SOPs then. Let's look at, everyone's got a bit of downtime now, because I think what people forget is that if you've got a lot on your plate and some of the things that I like to do, and I think I may have mentioned this with Nate before, but then get everyone else to do them, is have a Loom video set up or have a Screencastify. Sit down in your business and go, what's all the jobs I hate doing? Like I hate accounting and all that kind of stuff. It just bores me to tears. And so I have a hate list, and I have a list that I shouldn't be doing and someone else should be doing, and I should have repetitive tasks. And I sit there and they just really record a load of videos, stack them into like a Google Doc, and then farm that out to a team to write up the SOPs. And then obviously I can then shoot a video to correct those SOPs when they send them back. Nate, you're a master at SOPs. What would you say people should be doing now? Is there any like specific software out there? Is there any specific structure? Like, is there a formula that people should be following for SOPs?
Yeah, and that's our software that we're building now, is an SOP building software. So I'm excited. We're going to be launching that in the next 30 days. And I would love to have you as a beta tester. But the way that I like to set up SOPs are structured in 3 parts. So everyone knows the middle part of the SOP is your step 1, your step 2, your step 3. And what people a lot of times forget is the top and the bottom. So at the top, I like to put the why that particular role is important for the business. I like to put the long-term game plan of the business. So before they even get into the steps, they have that overall picture. If I just fired a bunch of VAs, I'll say, hey, the last 3 VAs, I won't name them by name, but I'll say they didn't work out for XYZ reason. This is what I'm looking for. So before they even dive in, they know what success and what failure looks like. And then at the bottom of the SOP, I put the do not do for any reason list, or the important reminders, because what a lot of people will do is they'll hide all these really important things in step 13, part B, and in certain parts of that middle section. And I like to wrap it up at the end so that they clearly know, hey, don't email seller performance for any reason. Or, hey, if my accountant emails you and you're monitoring my inbox, don't respond to that email. So it's all there. And my last point, and then I'll send it over, is, one of the reasons we were able to sell Free Up is because our SOPs were all there. And we spent a lot of time, both me, my business partner, my virtual assistants, on it. And when the Hoth was going through due diligence, they asked us about every single operation in the business, how exactly it worked. And we could quickly just say, copy, paste, send them the SOP, and it was all there. And that was a major reason that we're able to be acquired to begin with.
Yeah, that makes sense. Gilad, bring you in as well. What's your take with the SOP processes? Is there anything, a little bit of gold you can add to the conversation here?
Yeah, first of all, we took it as granted, but a lot of people are falling into this and thinking that they're the ones who should build the SOPs and then just give it to the VA. The entire idea, I think, is that you will have a conversation with the VA about a certain procedure, show them what you're expecting, and then have them write the SOPs. It will show you exactly if they understood exactly what they need to do, and it will put them into the business. So the first thing is that the SOPs should be written down by the VAs. And like Nathan said before, for SOPs, you should have the top part that will say, why are we here? And like the general idea of the business, which a lot of people are not really asking themselves, what your objective, what are the do and not do's. So I completely agree with that. And I would say that SOPs should not be only written down. They should either be a combination of videos and SOPs, but sharing the screen and recording what you're saying is as important as writing things like A, B, C, D, E, F, G, like all the points. When you're having a video, in 5 minutes you can understand much better than reading 10 pages.
I agree. So like when you got to retain from the short term to your long term memory, like years and years ago, I used to teach audio engineering. So I come from a teaching background. So there's the people will look like visual learners, kinesthetic, and there's a few other, there's 3 or 4 ways that people learn. You've got to work out what is the best format. A lot of people will learn visually. So what I like to do, if I'm interviewing for a position, it's very easy to pay these people to write an SOP. So I'll shoot a video and it gives me, do they have clarity of understanding? So what happens is they watch a video. So that's the visualization. Then they start to make some notes and put it into a document with screen grabs, right? So they take that information and return it to their long-term memory. Then you will be able to see grammar, spelling, eye for detail. Do they understand? Do they get comprehension? And you've literally paid them a small fee to work that out. And that is a good way to know you can't do a personality test there. But if you've done a test with 3 different VAs or staff, whatever, doing all of that, you can see by those. Obviously, in the video, you have to describe everything correctly. But you can tell if you've done it right and 2 of them have got it right and 1 have got it wrong, you know that they haven't paid attention. So that helps with your interview process as well. Omar, when you're interviewing for people, what are the process that you go through for your staff?
I'm sorry, say it again.
When you interview people for your distributed teams to bring on, how does that work on the back end for you?
When I'm hiring my people, that's...
Yes, yeah.
Okay. Obviously, I have a dedicated HR department which goes through all of the stuff. So, I mean, I told you that our services are a little different because all of our people are in-house. So there's a proper structure of posting jobs, hiring people, training them, and vetting their skill set. So it's a different process of going through. One of the points which I would mention is like when it comes to processes, okay? So instead of like if you have built your processes, that's great. But whoever you work with, agency or VA, or a resource, counter question them, okay? Do they have any SOPs? So it serves 2 purposes.
Yeah.
If they have any processes, you can take that process and, kind of, because every business is different, and you could basically, take that step and put your business there and, follow that process. But on the other hand, it tells you that how, good is that agency, okay? Yeah. How much belief they have on business building processes. So it serves 2 purposes, So when it comes to Amazon business, I must say that a lot of people take this as, a solopreneur that they are handling these businesses. I treat this as a full business. So when it comes to every process which you have, that needs to be documented and that needs to be clear. So the clear example is, take something, and I heard that, maybe I heard from Nathan or someone that, take that process and, give it to someone, your family member, okay? If they can follow that, okay, it means it's a good process that can be followed. But ask your agency whom you work with. Maybe they have some internal processes which they have built. So, it works both ways.
Yeah. The other reason to have good SOPs in place as well, because whoever you've employed, if they decide to leave or for any other reason, you've got all of those SOPs. So the incoming person can read the SOPs and you can get them to work off of those SOPs as part of their training. So as long as the process is done right the first time round, this would be a good time for the new person coming in to update those SOPs as part of their learning process. Do you agree, Nate?
Yeah, I mean, definitely. So if you want to get team leaders and assistant team leaders, one of the best ways to figure out who's going to be good in those roles is by giving people ownership of the tasks, of the SOPs, and saying, hey, over time, it's your job to keep them updated. It's your job to make sure they're correct. It's your job that if we change things like all startups do over and over and over again, that it's updated at all times. And you should make sure other people are actually reading the SOPs and that if they have ideas, that they have feedback, that it's being listened to and it's being updated. And when you find someone that's taking ownership of the SOPs day in and day out, a lot of times those make some of the best team leaders and assistant team leaders.
Yeah, makes sense. Barkus, let's bring you in here from an employee kind of side of things with Helium 10. Do you manage any of the distributed teams or outsourced teams there?
A little bit. As a product manager, I own 2 tools, and so I'm responsible for building all of the necessary information they need to help our customers with those tools. So, building out it's very simple for those tools, but you have I like to create a list of saved replies. It's a living document. Frequently asked questions. It's a living document. And empower them to add things to it as well. So, when you were talking about building out SOPs, like one thing I like to think about is look at everything that you love to do and everything that you hate. And obviously you want to get rid of everything that you hate, but maybe you really like keyword research, but that's not worth your time if you're trying to build the business.
Yeah, no, I was going to say, because I thought you was going to say, if you love them, keep hold of it. Like for me, it's like, I got to get everything off the plate. I run 3 businesses. I work on the businesses. I don't work in them.
Yeah.
If I worked in them, I couldn't run 3 businesses. I need to have that macro view. I need to understand what's going. So there are stuff I love doing, but I have to put my ego aside and go, well, no, someone else can do that. I'm taking work off someone. I have specific jobs to make the businesses run.
And speaking for me personally, like I'm a perfectionist to a fault. And we've talked about this before, but I heard something from a mentor a long time ago, and it was 80% done by somebody else is still 100% awesome.
Yeah.
Like nobody's ever going to do things the way I would do it. And that's okay, because we're all different human beings. But if they can get you 80% there and you didn't have to do that 80%, that's cool.
This is a great question, actually. Let's move into that, because let's talk about, we did touch on it earlier on. And I think this is the biggest problem. As soon as you move from a solopreneur and then start having a team, you have to realize, with the greatest respect, and this is the greatest respect to my team as well, they are not me, right? I own and run the businesses, and they're not going to be able to do a lot of stuff that I can do, but they can do a lot of the stuff very, very well. And I can't do without them. So I have to accept it's down to my training and my communication, my mentoring, my coaching to get them up as far as humanly possible to work on that stuff. But I do think there are people out there that think, well, they're absolutely useless because they're not at my level. Does that make sense? They're not allowing for that gap. Let's bring you in, Jalad, here. Have you seen that as well, where you've had to articulate this to people?
I see it a lot. We call it the Superman syndrome, that exists specifically online, because if you go outside of offline business, then somebody opens a restaurant and it's automatically he will know that he will hire a chef, he will hire a bartender, he will hire a waitress to help him with the business. But online business, suddenly you think that you can handle everything yourself, and just because you're in front of the computer, then it's very difficult for you to let go, because obviously you're the founder of the business, so you know best what to do with everything, and suddenly everything else will become, will be very, you will think twice before giving that to delegate it to somebody else. But that's, once you understand that this is what's holding you back, that if you're doing, and like Danny, like you said, if you're working in your business instead on your business, then you will never grow. You will continue to do the same things again and again, and you will never have the time to manage and to macro manage and think how your business can grow. So that's a huge thing, that once an entrepreneur understands that that's his job, then suddenly everything is much easier. Suddenly working with a multiple amount of VAs and giving them the option to show you what they do, it will become much easier. That's the first step.
Yeah, cool. Omar, bring you in here. What's your take?
I would say that, the biggest difference everybody needs to differentiate is that, outsourcing is different for other sectors and then e-commerce. In e-commerce, you can't just take a process and give to someone and they can handle it. You need someone who could, work on your SOPs or bring expertise, along with working on day-to-day tasks. So that is basically e-commerce. So in e-commerce, you cannot just rely that. So I would say that when you are becoming from solopreneur to a full entrepreneur and building your processes and building your team, I think there are a couple of things you need to keep in mind. So when you are working with any of agency or freelancer, anyone, once you have your SOPs, okay, you need to be very clear with your communication methods. Okay, when I say communication method, okay, how how you are communicating and when you are communicating with your with your staff. That is very important. Okay. Especially in these days, and that is applicable to people who are working in US. Like, employers, they have to be very respectful to their employees. And on the employee side, I will basically cover both sides. So on employer side, they have to be very respectful. They know that, and they need to trust on their employees, that they are working on that. On the employee side, I would say that, especially in these circumstances, they need to separate, and that applies everywhere. They need to separate their personal workspace to their professional workspace. The way I say is that they need to build certain certain rules. For example, I would say that, if I am working on a business, I'm working with an Amazon seller, I'm working with anyone, I am not sitting on a couch and working. I'm sitting on one side of the desk and I'm just working on that. That kind of, motivates you. That kind of separate your workspace from your personal space. That is important everywhere. Like when I talk to people, I have employees in US as well. So, I kind of tell them, this is the way you could be more productive when you're talking, when you are working on a business. So these are some of the things which you can, take that. And when it comes to e-commerce, so look at the business processes, whatever you have, what you can, just look at them, and one by one, obviously, you could start outsourcing them. That's.
Yeah, I just want to say a few hellos. Welcome, Megla. Welcome, Oxy. Andrew's out there again. Welcome back. Tiffany back again. Who else have we got here? Karen, Roger Percy, John Shepherd. John, thanks for the donations for the mask as well. Amit's here as well. Brian Cummings. Ben Valance is back as well. Chrissy O'Dean. Simon is here. Linda Candy. Hey, Linda. Hope you're well. Marvin's here. Who else have we got? Daniel Newman. Graham. Guys, if you've got any questions, let me know. Happy to get these guys to answer them. So I'm going to switch the gears up a bit now. So we've talked about SOPs. We've talked about being respectful to your VAs. We talked about how you distribute the teams and what they can do in a time of crisis and shifting things around. We talked about ideas for kickstarting new business ideas by doing paid tests with people. Now, what about if you want to take it next stage? Now, Nate, and I'll bring you in on this as well. So you've got your VAs, yeah? But where you create that layer to go up next, you've gone solopreneur to a team of VAs that you micromanage, or they manage themselves. How do you get the managers to manage them? Let's talk about that. I think that's a stretch to where people struggle with.
Yeah, and I think a lot of entrepreneurs fall into that trap where they hire 10 VAs, they get good at hiring VAs, and then they wake up one day and they realize, man, this sucks. I have 10 VAs reporting to me, and now I really have become the manager. So to me, it's about planning ahead a little bit. I mentioned about giving people ownership of tasks, of SOPs, kind of seeing what they got so you don't wake up one day and say, oh my God, I need a team leader. Now, who do I actually make a team leader? So you want to give them tasks up front to prove themselves, to show that they have ownership, to show that they can manage it. And what I personally like to do is reach out to the VAs and see if they're even interested in that leadership role, because depending on their personality, depending on what's important to them, it might be stability, it might be self-improvement, it might be title, whatever it is, they may or may not want that leadership role. And I really have my own SOPs just for team leaders and SOPs just for team leaders that lay out, okay, now that you're a team leader, here's how your role is going to change, whether it's increased hours, what kind of tasks you're responsible for, what people you're responsible for. And then it's about getting the people to respect that other virtual assistant as the leader, which depending on your team might be easy or might be hard, and kind of moving in that direction. It's not something that happens overnight, but you kind of treat it as that next level of training where, hey, you read this SOP, you learn exactly what you're responsible for, you ask questions, and now we're going to start the process of moving you into that leadership role, and you have to prove that you can handle it over time. And eventually what we got at FreeUp is we had 35 virtual assistants, but there were 4 team leaders, and each team leader had 1 or 2 assistant team leaders. But I was talking to the team leaders 80% of the time. I might check in with the other virtual assistants, but I wasn't talking to 35 VAs every single day. I was talking to the 4 team leaders, and it was their responsibility to transmit that information to their team and really run most of the meetings.
And of course, culturally and language-wise, it makes sense to have if it's the Philippines, is have a Filipino team leader. Yeah, just because of the communication aspect as well. Right, Gilad, I'm going to bring you in here now. What would you do here? Like, how do you determine that you're hiring in-house or you're going externally? You know, maybe you've got some good VAs, but they're not going to be good lieutenants. They're not got leadership material about them. That's not their thing, because obviously they're going to come off the tools and start to work more on the business and manage. So it's a different skill set, isn't it, to go in from being the worker to the manager, and you have to grow that piece. Where would people know when that's the right move? Yeah,
well, I would say that the optimized thing, the best option for you to do is to hire somebody from within, to grow them to become a leader. But usually it doesn't happen that way. Usually you don't think from the very beginning that you're hiring somebody that you have to test to make sure that he's going to be fit to lead. In the beginning, usually it goes that you need a VA, and the VA is doing everything, is becoming more and more professional, and then you're taking another VA, and then you have to decide how are you going to manage them. So the idea is really to give them the responsibility, but to choose who's the one that you think is going to be good at, but to give them confidence and to give them the understanding that it's okay to be wrong. So if you're giving them the option, okay, I want you to start being more active and start giving orders and making and managing the other VAs, then don't dismiss them. Don't tell them, okay, this is wrong what you did. I want you to, the next time you should never do that, because then basically, at least in the Philippines, you can see that the confidence level here could really change the way that the VA will decide, okay, maybe I'm not good at it. I don't want to do it anymore. You have to build this trust. You have to build the confidence that what they're doing is good, and you want them to improve from time to time. And once you're deciding for them that they understand from you that it's okay to be wrong, but you're there and you're supporting them, and that's your decision, then I would say this is better than hiring somebody from outside just to, land on them and start managing them.
Yeah, I just want to bring in Peter Zapp says, hey, Peter, hope you're well, hope you're in good health. Training managers to manage. It's a corporate problem too. I like to define tasks, define goals, define metrics. The metrics allow one to compare different people. Do that for managers and individual contributors. Roger said MS Teams. I don't know what MS is, mate. MS Teams seems to be the go-to nowadays, but is used as much internationally, ? I imagine integrating apps like Trello into it would cover most tasks. Could you write that in English, Roger, for me so I can understand, mate? And then we'll go over that one in a minute. Can I bring in Barkus? How do you bring in leadership role to manage distribute teams? Not you, I know HR, but how does that work?
Yeah. I think that when you have a team of BAs, whether that's 2 or 10 or more, I think one will typically start to naturally shine. You'll see one, maybe more, that will start to want or just start taking on more responsibilities by themselves. And then that kind of makes an easy decision of, okay, this is probably the person that that wants to and probably has the, the skill set to go forward. I think that Nathan touched on it too, is having that one person, like communicating to that person more, especially when there's a language barrier. I think I think it's important, but also setting that clear expectation. Like Nathan said, it might be easy or it might be hard to put that person in that management role. But I think if you communicate with your team, at least regularly, the entire team, whether that's once a week or however you decide to do that, they built a certain rapport that they understand things that are coming from you. And when you say, hey, Nathan's gotten this promotion, he's now going to be responsible for this, this, and this. If you have questions, go to him. If you set the clear expectations of what to do with Nate, what to come to me for, it sets the tone of that role. And then when you set the tone of that role, there's really don't leave anything to mystery. So when somebody's not listening to Nate, for example, I can go to him and be like, hey, Danny, why aren't you listening to Nate? Like he says he's having some trouble. What's going on? How can I help you? So, just being empathetic, like being upfront about things too.
Yeah, I mean, I noticed the difference culturally as well, in the sense that because Filipinos are very proud and they're scared to get anything wrong, I have to beg my guys, say, look, Don't worry about fucking up. I'm here. You just tell me. It's not a problem. But don't disappear. Don't get embarrassed. It's not about being wrong. It's about eventually getting it right. If you're listening and paying attention and keep making mistakes, that's a different story, but you're not. You're doing it because you're shy and you're embarrassed about it, but we can't fix that so I always have a brutally open conversation, but that's only because I've learned more about the culture now. And I think that becomes a problem with new entrepreneurs coming in, hiring VAs from the Philippines and going, well, what's going on? Because they suddenly go disappear, and maybe they're a bit heavy handed, like with their responses a bit short on chat or email, and say, look, you messed up here, blah, blah, blah. And that kind of scares them off and puts them on the back foot. Nate, what would you do to turn that around when you've got some guys who just feel like they want to do the right thing, but culturally there's that block there? What do you do to repair that situation?
Yeah, I mean, we spend a lot of time setting the expectations up front that we don't want a yes person. We don't want a robot. We want someone who's going to come with ideas and feedback. And it's something that we not only talk about during the interview, but we talk about during the onboarding. We talk about it in the first meeting, and every one-on-one meeting going forward. We meet with them one-on-one every quarter to give them a bonus, to thank them, to show appreciation, to give them feedback. And if they're not doing that, that's when that feedback comes about, and they kind of know that, hey, you're only going to get so far in the company if you're keeping to yourself, and if you're not sharing your ideas, or you're not going out on a limb. And what you kind of see that thing click where the VA starts to just take ownership and try something and do something. And that's usually a sign for me that they're going to crush it. And one more thing that I'll add, that two separate situations of, we talked about putting someone into that leadership position. When I started Free Up, I took a VA from my Amazon business, Chicky Ann, who had been working with me for 5 years. And so when it got to the point for team leaders, everyone said, oh, Chicky Ann's been working with Nate. She's Mama Cheeks. She's going to be the team leader. No big deal. Down the line, 3 years later, we were growing. We hired 6 new customer service reps, and we made one of them a little bit later an assistant team leader. And that was a lot harder, probably the hardest that it's ever been for me, because they were all hired on the same day. But all of a sudden, one of them that had been just working as a group of a team was now their leader, was now their boss. And I had to go and meet with them one by one, every single person, which is not exactly what I wanted to do, but just to get them in the right mindset so we didn't have issues going forward. So depending on your situation, you might have to approach it a little bit differently.
Yeah. Same, Gilad, to you. What's your take?
Well, you talked about the idea that VAs, especially in the Philippines, they tend to disappear. I would say that the most frequent problem here is not with the VAs; it's more with the sellers. That they don't give the VAs to feel at home, like that the company is their home. I'm here for you, and the idea you do it by communicating with them every day, doing video calls, understanding where they're coming from, asking them to report to you, but also to ask them about their family, to give them some gifts on their birthdays. I see it in our community. We have like I said, we are a big community in them. And the idea that we keep the VAs with us for year after year is because they feel like VA is their home. So we visit them in the Philippines. We celebrate their birthdays. We're giving them like some tests and some games, and they really feel like the company is their home. And it's the same thing if you're a seller. If you're just communicating by writing with your VA, giving them things to do, and then just telling them if they did it wrong or right, and that's going to be your entire relationship, then don't expect that the VA will stay with you, because they will not feel like this is their home. They are there working from their homes. They're not really feeling connected. You have to make them feel connected.
Yeah. Great question here from Jacob. This is the thing I want to come into. He says, how do you guys feel about giving long-term vision, ancillary benefits, paid education for the kids, gifts, workplace upgrades, and computers and stuff? My question, to summarize and crystallize where he's coming from here, was carrot and stick, right? So not everyone's motivated by money. Some people are motivated by meaning, some things that's going to help their family. What beyond financial, you get this done, I'll give you an extra percentage. What are the other benefits that the audience can give to their VAs to make their life better and more meaningful?
You want me to go?
Yeah, go on, Nate. You go first, and then we'll go to Omar next.
Yeah. So, I mean, there's different things you can do depending on what you're hiring for. Like, I just hired a VA that I don't need her set schedule at all times. So she can check in with me in the morning from 7 to 9 a.m. And the rest of the time, as long as she comes every 7 to 9, you can make it flexible schedule. You can visit them in the Philippines, like someone said before, which I've done. You can schedule meetups. I've had VAs that live close to each other that will have a meetup and we'll pay for the dinner. We've had a Christmas party every year that I've run VAs where everyone that can gets together and we cover that Christmas party. So it's stuff like that. I've never done the health insurance thing or pay for their kids' schools. I have bought a VA, a laptop. That was an extreme exception, someone who'd been working with me for a while. But I did put programs in place so that as FreeUp's hours went up, their pay automatically went up without them having to ask or get a raise. And we did take hundreds of thousands of dollars from the sale and give it to our team in the Philippines to make sure that they were taken care of. So there's other ways to go about it besides like the scholarships and stuff like that I think is not something that I've ever done.
Excellent. Omar, carrot and stick. Other than financial reward, what can people do to look after their team to make it more meaningful?
Sure. I would just like to answer the first question, which was put there, MS Teams. So I am using Microsoft Teams. It's an excellent tool. Yeah. Okay, I'm managing a team of 200 people. It's an excellent tool. We kind of retired Zoom and brought Microsoft Teams, so it's working excellent. So that's the first answer to the question. When it comes to incentives, I told you that our structure is different. We have in-house people, so we provide like all kind of benefits, health, and all other stuff. Most of our team is between 20 and 30s. Okay, so other than providing them health benefits, training, and all that stuff, we do a lot of other activities as well, like having like family days and kind of having like sports activities, which kind of keeps them motivated, working towards the company. One of the other questions which you asked, I would like to answer is that about the team leader and team. That question we discussed like 3 years ago, and we kind of solve it on our own level is that whenever we work with anyone, we provide a resource. On top of that, we provide a quality assurance manager. And I think a lot of agencies, they should kind of provide similar things as well, because it worked for us as well. Like, that quality assurance manager kind of oversee the work. So whenever you work with anyone, when we work with anyone, we do an account analysis, a brand analysis, whatever. That kind of serves two purposes. Basically tells like client what we know about e-commerce or Amazon or anything else. It also serves another purpose. It tells us what is the growth opportunity, okay? And you can take this example and kind of, deploy a team or number of people or one person. If you see a growth opportunity in the future, you could deploy someone who is good at team management, because you are seeing at a bigger picture that in like maybe 1 month, 2 months, 3 months down the road, this person can be a team leader and can manage team. On top of that, if people are working individually, if they have a smaller business, we kind of provide a quality assurance manager. And I think everybody should build these processes just to help them, because again, e-commerce is not just a hobby; it's a full-time business, and you should treat it as a full-time business.
Yeah, I think going back what you said there is. What I call management as well is a safe pair of hands. Like all of us on this call, we're entrepreneurs, right? I'll be the first to admit, I'll be bored shitless being a manager week after week following processes. I'm fucking useless, but I'll smash doors down and get deals done, build things, and then I can throw that to a team and go, there you go, you're the safe hands. You take care of all that stuff. Just come to me when there's a problem, and then just focus on the ups and downs of the day. Does that make sense? Nate, I know that you look at SOPs and stuff, but you don't strike me as someone who's like sitting there constantly in the process all the time. You're more of a builder like me, right?
Yeah, I mean, I have a 90-day rule that me and my business partner, Connor, made back in, man, I don't even know. We must have been in our early 20s, but where we don't do anything longer than 90 days. Like right now, we're building processes for Outsource School. The first month, we're throwing stuff against the wall. We're seeing what's working. Maybe we have a VA that's helping us try different things. By the second month, we're starting to create those SOPs. We have a pretty good idea of what's not working. We're perfecting it. if we haven't hired someone yet, we're interviewing them, we're hiring them. And then that third month is getting it off our plate. So at the end of the 90 days, we can add more stuff, because us entrepreneurs, and me included, we have a habit of just continuing to add more and more stuff to our plate. And you need to make sure that you're just constantly delegating, constantly taking stuff off your plate as you're adding.
Yeah. Jilad, I'll bring you in here on the same thing as well. You're an entrepreneur. Do you find the same, that even though you're process driven in the beginning, you get ideas off the ground, but you want to hand that to a safe pair of hands, let them do that so you can get back to doing other stuff, like the creative stuff?
Yeah, I think I always ask myself the next question. I ask myself, I mean, is the thing that I'm doing now, is it only me that can do it actually, or with all my knowledge as the founder of the company, as a seller and so on, or if somebody else can do that for me with, a person with the right training, or a person with the right attitude and so on. But if the answer is yes, somebody else can do it instead of me, then there's not even a question about I should not be doing it. I should be focusing only on the things that I, as an entrepreneur, as the owner of the company, can do, that nobody else can take that decision instead of me. Nobody else can lead and grow. So that's my point of it. You should always ask yourself this question. If the answer is no, somebody else can do it, then give them do it. Yeah.
What's your take, Barker? So were you, I know you're a product manager, but you strike me as a creative person as well. Do you get into the dirt with the details of stuff, or are you quick to hand stuff off to people?
A little bit of both. I think that I'm more creative than analytical, and I'm getting a lot better at taking an idea for a product, feature, tool, whatever, and planning it out, speccing out, and then handing over to the developer team. So, and that kind of thing can just obviously go over to VAs. A lot of planning needs. If you want to build a VA team, it takes a lot of planning on your end. It's your responsibility. It's your business. And again, these guys are pros in this field, but it goes, the more that you plan, the more that you put into your VAs, and the more you build out structuring that team, the longer and farther that can go and take your business.
Sounds good. Right, guys, we're coming up to the top of the hour now. So I'm going to give you scenarios, going to go around the room, and I'm going to ask you to give 3 things that people should implement into their business. Small Amazon seller, solo entrepreneur, Nate, what are 3 things they should do to grow?
Man, 3 things they should do as a smaller seller. I would systemize everything right from the beginning. We've kind of talked about SOPs. I would try lots of different things before you figure out what products you actually want to sell. I mean, I tried every kind of product that I liked back in the day, and eventually settled on baby products. If you can imagine me selling baby products back in the day. So a lot of times you end up in a direction that you're not comfortable with, that's outside of your comfort zone. And third, and this is my personal thing, is try to network with as many people in the space as you possibly can. The first thing I do at 7 a.m. every morning is reach out to 3 new entrepreneurs, and not try to sell them, not try to pitch them, just set up a networking call. And it's something that I was terrible at when I was an Amazon seller myself. I kind of thought that I had this big secret that I didn't want to share with other people, and I secluded myself. And it's easy to do that when you're working from home as an Amazon seller, but put yourself out there, meet other people in the space, and over time, you're going to learn a lot and get to know a lot of great people.
Cool. Omar, you're in the middle of a pandemic like now, but you've got a shit ton of cash in the bank and some ideas to push forward and grow. What are 3 things you do for expansion?
As an agency or as a...
No, as a seller. What would you advise a seller listening to now that's got shit ton of cash in the bank, ideas to grow, but not sure what we're going to do about a team? What are the 3 things they need to do?
I think as an Amazon seller, what they need to do is, I was just listening to the discussion which were going on, that this is a time that you should not just make like massive changes in your business. Okay. Yeah. I think that this is a time to strategize. Okay. Yeah. So strategize right now and think about, like, before this crisis, there were things which you have considered, but you didn't get a time to implement. For example, how you can diversify your business. That's a very important part. Yeah. Diversify in terms of staffing, in terms of logistics, in terms of shipping options, how you can diversify. That's a very important. This is a time you need to strategize and work on these things as a small, big, or, large business. So this is a time to strategize, maybe put a smaller investment to research and development and come up with that strategy. But definitely it's a time to rethink about your business model. Okay, not take massive decisions, but rethink.
Yeah. Gilad, to you, 3 tools that people should use, maybe even 3 ones at the moment, to help communicate to their team and manage their business, like your Trellos, your Wunderlists, and etc. ClickUp.
All right. Well, first of all, Trello is a great tool. I use it all the time with the VAs. It's free. There are obviously options to paid as well, but Trello is a great example. I prefer it more than Asana. Communicating with VAs. Actually, I use Chanty, which is pretty much, there are a lot of other options out there, but Chanty is a new one, and I pretty much like it.
Sorry, did you say chat or Chang? What did
Chanty.
you?
Chanty, Chanty.
Chanty.
Right?
Okay. Yeah. Sorry. Yeah.
That's a cool tool that I like. It's a new one. I like to usually use the ones that are just starting instead of doing what everybody else is doing. So these are the best two. And for your last question before, I would say that if you have a VA now, if you have money to spend, you have time, use this VA to always know what's new on Amazon. Okay, and go into it. Okay, so there's a new thing in there that just started, a beta of some kind of Amazon posts that just started something on PPC. Take the VA to learn it and start using it before everybody else is doing. This is why you have a VA to use this manpower in order to do something that nobody else is doing.
Yeah, Marcus, 3 things that people can do to show love to their team to make sure they're taken care of.
I think it's small things. I love daily stand-ups. Just I communicate with 2 of the managers every day, and then routinely with the rest of the team. And just showing your appreciation goes such a long way. Like, some people don't need an attaboy, a pat on the back. I don't need it, but some people need that. They need that to feel heard and respected. So understanding those who needs what can go a long way. I think paid time off is a great thing. Maybe it's not money, but maybe somebody is working from home like all of us do, and maybe they want an extra couple of days each month just to spend time with their family. And then I would say constantly check in and ask them questions like, hey, what do you need? What do you need? Because and a lot of us, I mean, especially me, I'm prideful. Like I don't like to let anybody know I need anything because I'm a Neanderthal and I can obviously do everything myself. But like it could be a small thing. It might be like, well, I could use a microphone if you have them recording any audio or anything like that. Man, $30 to and get them to ship them a small piece of equipment. Maybe their laptop's broken and they're embarrassed to even tell you that. If so, buy them a laptop. Everything that can save them time helps you save time in the process. So.
Yeah. Sounds good. All right. Before we disappear, I just want to announce the shows for the rest of this week. So Thursday, tomorrow is Wednesday, isn't it? Thursday, 2nd of April, Amazon compliance. We're going to talk about certification, essential goods, and inspections. Obviously, all this stuff with the mask, FDA approval, all that kind of stuff. We're going to look at a legal point of view. So I've got an all-star team in tomorrow to discuss that because of people having problems, hand sanitizers. We'll talk all sorts of stuff. Then on Friday, 3rd of April, we're going to do listing optimization. We're going to do 2020, which is today versus what we were doing in 2019. New tips there. I've got Leanne Hirschwell coming on. I've got Kevin King on for that and Amy Weiss. Saturday is part 3 of Women of Amazon. Sunday, 5th of April is our Mindset Day. So Mindset Sunday, your health is your wealth. So we're going to be talking about healthy things to keep you in the game, etc. And then Monday, the 6th of April, we're going to be doing sourcing in the pandemic with Kian Gilzari. Just want to say thank you. Many thanks for a great show from Pat Taylor. Herb says, thanks, guys. Roger says, you need a trim, Barkus. I'm jealous, Roger, of his beard. He's had a trim recently. It looks nice, but he ain't going to get out for about 3 months to get that trim. Then we've got Laurie. Thanks, guys. Thank you, Mohammed. Tiff, again, good to see you. Who else have we got? Daniel. Yeah, he did say about MS Teams. I know that Omar was talking about this earlier on. So before we go, just go around the room. Barkus, if people want to reach out to you, how do they get in contact with you?
Shoot me a message on Facebook, or you can shoot me an email, barkus.p@helium10.com.
Yep. Gilad, what's the best way of reaching you?
Either private message or vaaphilippines.com.
Okay. Omar?
They can reach out at www.yourtasker.com.
Excellent. And Nate, what about yourself?
Yeah, I'm probably one of the easiest people to contact. Contact me on any social media channel, Nathan Hirsch, and go to outsourceschool.com if you want to check out my website.
Cool. Guys, thank you for joining us today. Thank you for giving up gracefully giving up your time. The audience as well, thank you so much, cross-platform. Thank you to all the groups that share all these videos. I look forward to seeing you all again tomorrow. Take care of yourself. Take care of your families. Stay home. Lots of love. See you soon. Bye.
Bye.
Okay.